Hey everybody, David Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Micky Deming. He is the founder of FullStadium Marketing, which is all around content strategy, production, and promotion for the accounting industry and the vendors that support that industry. We're going to really dive into what does content marketing mean in 2022? What are some ways you can really, take advantage of this? I don't even want to call it a trend anymore because it's been here for so long, but how do you incorporate this into your firm? How do you really take advantage of this from a distribution perspective? But first, Micky, welcome to the show.
David, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, totally. Well, for folks not familiar with FullStadium, I gave a brief highlight before we dive into content marketing for the industry. Briefly talk about what your firm does, who you do it for, what's like the typical customer.
Yep. So we specialize in content marketing, like you said, and we work primarily with the accounting industry. So accounting firms and also the software companies in the accounting space too. And I love it because I think we'll talk about it, but content marketing is so awesome for accounting firms just because I think business owners really need to learn more how to understand their numbers, how to understand their finances. And so we try to help doing that with, like you said, content strategy, publishing, blog articles, social media, things like that.
Yeah, and full disclosure, he works with the top workflow solution in the accounting firm market, Jetpack Workflow. So he only works with the best. He's been doing work with us for about 2 years or so, 18 months.
Yeah.
To folks that enjoy the newsletter, say thank you to Micky. And if you're not on the newsletter, get on the newsletter so you can get the top links and articles every week. Having said that, if I'm an accounting firm owner listening right now, and maybe I've tried content marketing in the past, it's worked a little bit. I mean, I think the first worry is like, how do you break through the noise to make content that is interesting to consume? And then we'll talk about where to publish it and how to distribute it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think as accounting firms, there are unique challenges in marketing. Marketing's hard enough as it is, but accounting firms have it even harder. And I think one of the biggest reasons is because there's this, what I call like a fear and trust issue. And so, if you ask anyone like, where do most of your leads come from? It's always word of mouth. And that's the reason why is because with word of mouth, you've already overcome that trust issue because it's coming from someone who knows you. So there's more trust built in. When trying to go beyond word of mouth, that's the biggest roadblock is like, how am I going to trust you with something so intimate and personal to me? Finances are really scary. Accounting is really scary. I don't fully understand it. And I feel like you as the accounting firm are going to just think I'm an idiot. And so it's kind of scary and it's overwhelming. And so one thing that content marketing really does to help in that space is to kind of build a bit of a bridge, build some trust, allow you as a firm owner to have some personality and stand out. And so as far as like, what are ways to stand out? I think that's the first thought is be yourself, have a voice. You're a great example, David, with this podcast. I know you're not an accounting firm owner, but just by producing this content for years and years and years, so many people know you and know your voice. And so then that kind of builds a bit of trust, when even though it's software, it's like, I feel a connection to Jetpack Workflow because I know David, I know what he sounds like, I know what his what his style is, which helps establish trust. So even if you're not like, we'll talk about ways to kind of start producing content, but I think, first and foremost is just like, don't be embarrassed. Don't feel like nobody wants to learn about accounting. Like people want to get to know who you are and what your firm stands for.
Yeah, no, and I feel like, if you're a firm owner listening, partner or leader listening, and you are unsure where to start, I would wager that you're missing your niche. Because I feel like if you've picked out who you want to serve, there's so many questions that people have. So for example, I can't remember the guy's last name for the life of me, Mitchell Baldridge. He is like the crypto tax guy on Twitter. And I know it's a very cool space and what have you, but there's all kinds of questions he's getting around, NFTs and selling, buying crypto and tax implications. And so there's an abundance of content. But I imagine if you settled on design agencies or marketing agencies or software companies, there's a lot of content those folks need when it comes to accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, and taxes.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was going to say, the biggest challenges for accounting firms, not number one is, that trust issue, but then the second is differentiation. So how are you different? That's kind of the mindset, is like everyone's going to be the same. So let me just find whatever I can find. So it's a challenge to differentiate yourself. And I think content can be a huge way to do that. But like you said, it starts with, who are you writing for? Who are you creating content for? Who is the audience? Because it's extremely difficult to differentiate if you're kind of speaking to the masses. And so by narrowing in and knowing who to focus on, it starts there. And I think we all struggle with that as marketers. Like, we start with ourselves. What do I care about? But really, to be effective, you start with the audience. What do they care about? What, like you said, what questions are they asking? And, as an accounting firm owner, you're working with them every day, and they're dealing with problems, they're dealing with issues, they're dealing with pain. Those problems and issues are a perfect place to start with content, because that means everybody wants their pain solved. Everyone wants to deal with their issues. And so create content about those things, about, what your ideal client's dealing with. And the chances are there's going to be some interest, because we don't like dealing with those things.
Yeah, that, one more example that just came to mind, because, and we've seen it time and time again, whether folks work with like a firm like yours or whatever they end up doing, is they'll put out content for their industry. They'll get great clients from it because they won't be widely read, but people who read it are great clients. On the flip side, there was a firm we'd worked with, LWS Tax and Accounting, and I can't remember a single piece of content they put out that was, I'll call it, helpful in any way, but they have a great following because they are the Springfield, Ohio heroes, as I'll call them. So they go around and they do good deeds in Springfield, and they highlight local businesses and community members. And Blake, who's the founder, I mean, that's just his natural MO. He likes to go out and meet people. And they created their whole content strategy, not, I think, a formal one, but organically around, let's really highlight Springfield as a fun place, and let's give back. Let's do give back events, let's do donation events, charity events, and make that part of our content. So it doesn't always have to be how-to guides, right? It could also just be local-based content.
Yeah, I know it is. That's what's cool too, is there's no formula. I think, you have a great podcast, and that's come naturally to you, but there's many ways to do it and to create it. But the important thing is to not be static, not be stagnant, but don't try to, follow someone else's style. Like, you have your own style, lean into that, and your audience has their own kind of, where do they find information? Where are they searching? And so, like this firm, if they have found a way to provide good deeds and record it and document it, then they're absolutely going to stand out. And we're talking about it right now. So it's definitely a good move to make.
Yeah. Well, what's changed in 2022 from a content, either creation perspective or distribution perspective, or has nothing changed and the classics are the classics and keep doing them, or is it somewhere in between?
I think the only change is, like, all the changes we've been talking about are just becoming more intense, it's stronger. And so, like, competition's only higher. That need for differentiation is only higher because it becomes more and more cluttered, which creates more of a need for being specific, in the things you're creating. And so I'd say that's a lot of times what I think people miss is, trying to be like, accounting to grow your business, is an article that is never going to get found by anyone because, everyone's saying it. And I think more and more today, you just have to, like, they talk about the long tail, getting to maybe something that only gets searched 150 times per month, but is not as competitive. Then you have a chance to help your firm stand out. And again, we keep coming back to it, but it really starts with the audience. Because if you have a specific niche, specific industry that you're solving problems for, you can create an article focused really into that, just like, the crypto guy. Then you're going to be the go-to person in that industry. So I think that's one big piece that's changing. But then the other is, like, I don't know, like we've always been saying, like, the buyer is empowered now. And so I feel if I'm looking for a service, I can just sit at my computer and I can search and I can ask questions and I can think and I can read reviews. Like, I have all the power. And so it's becoming more and more important that you have good information on your website, because people people won't pull the trigger on reaching out to you or contacting you. If like, I know I'm that way. If I go to a site and it's just been stagnant, my first thought is, is this even a business? Are they even doing anything? It just kind of shoots yourself in the foot a little bit. And so I think that's more and more important is people are searching. So you want to be found in the search, but then when they do find you, even if it's from word of mouth, they're still going to click around the site and look at it. You want to have something that's engaging, showing that you are kind of keeping up with all the things that are going on in the industry and that you know the space, which makes it a little bit easier to convert on that attention that you're getting.
Yeah, and one of the examples we've seen in the space, I don't know if you've seen this a lot of your clientele, but literally client FAQs are just great blog posts because, like, worst case scenario, you write it and you save your team time because they can reference the article, or you could use it to prompt to have an advisory conversation. So tax credit implications for companies in the state of Minnesota, whatever it may be. That could be an article you write because that you're focused in that state, or it could be a specific city. And you might just want to send that to your clients as a value add with maybe a call to action to have a call in advance of tax season. So that also could be found locally against that keyword, and your team can reference this as they're having client meetings, or if they're unsure about information, they can go back to the blog post. So I feel like this is a huge opportunity to like almost guarantee you're having some ROI from the content you produce.
Love it. Yeah, no, and we do that ourselves. We think of like questions that keep coming up. We're like, okay, we need to just write about it so we don't have to, keep answering it. And yeah, it's the same is true in an accounting firm. Those questions are being asked, and those are just golden opportunities because if someone's asking you directly, then there's probably hundreds of other people that are asking the same question and want it answered. And it's funny. I always laugh because I browse a lot of accounting firm websites, and the common blog posts that you see is like the latest tax law, and I'm just thinking they trust you to take care of that they're not really looking to like read it on the website. And so starting with not necessarily these changes in the industry, but like what are the questions, what are the things they're dealing with, and we've seen it in the last few years, especially a heightened interest in cash flow, and being able to forecast, and being able to kind of adjust a forecast, being able to get funding and present paperwork for lending, things like that. So these are questions, if they're coming up, that there's a lot of interest in. And it always bothers me whenever, like, as accounting firms and people in the accounting space, we like apologize, like, oh, I know this information's really boring, and I know nobody really wants to learn about accounting, and there has to be like some apology beforehand. But it's like people want to know how to have more profit, how to earn more money, how to know how to make distributions within their team. These questions are interesting. And I think like in personal finance, you see blogs all the time, like people eat that content up. So why would a business owner be any different? Like people want to know what to do with their money.
Yeah, well, I feel like your example of a loan, filling out a loan application. Now that is something you want to have one-on-one with your client. You want to help them walk them through it. You want to have like the answers ready when concerns or questions come up. But you can, take a blank loan documentation from the bank and shoot a YouTube video and talk about how you fill it out with fake data. I mean, you could make a fake company with fake data, shoot a YouTube video, and then the way that not only gets indexed on YouTube, but if you have a client that comes in or you're talking with them and they're thinking about a loan, say, great, let's make a time Thursday. We're going to spend an hour together. I'll walk you through it. And guess what? Hey, in advance, why don't you check out this video I sent you, and I'll answer some of the fundamental questions of what you need in advance of that meeting. And so that video can actually help be a part of a very personal conversation, but give you all the context you need. And we've seen this with, this is probably 5 or 6 years ago, people would do this with tax returns, just generic tax returns, and get ranked. But if you're thinking about, loan options in the state of Pennsylvania or the state of Texas, I mean, I feel like that opportunity is still there. And even if you don't get any traffic from it, imagine the expert level positioning you get by sending a video in advance of a meeting.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And there's really no fear. I always think there's no fear in giving away too much information because at the end of the day, people want help with it, and as much as you may educate, I don't think you have to worry that like, oh, what if they learn so much they want to do it themselves? Like people don't want to do it themselves. And so, if you're dealing with these issues, and want to help your own clients, go ahead and help them put it out there in the world, and then other people can find it too. And they're like, wow, this firm's really helpful. And that's only a good thing.
Yeah. Do you find that fear a lot? People will not write as much content as probably they should because they fear that it's going to take away some of the value they provide as a firm.
I I don't think that's the biggest hang up, but I think as marketers in general, that is a question I get a lot of, like, well, if a good example is like with software. Like, so if an accounting firm is using a certain software, then I think it's cool to write a post on like how we use Zero to automate this, this, and this. Like, that's value to your client. Like, we know tech and we use it to get amazing results for our clients. I think there could be a fear that's like, well, then it looks too easy, and then I could just do it myself, or but that's not, I don't think, really a concern. Like, they want to know that you're really efficient, that you're good at what you do, and so it's only adding more value.
Yeah, I feel like the best clients can see the articles and say, great, they know what they're doing, let's just hire them. Clients you wouldn't want in the first place say, okay, let me read that article and 27 other articles to figure out how to duct tape this together myself. Like, because they're probably clients that are going to come anyways and nickel and dime you, and I want to pay your fees, and they want to try to do it themselves. Unfortunately, 3 years later, they might come back and their books are a mess and the tech stack's a mess and you have to clean it up. So if that's not the number one concern, what is the number one blocker for firms really getting the ROI out of content marketing?
I think it's like many things that require like a day-to-day discipline. I think it requires just doing it and just getting started. I think the where it gets hung up is, like anything else, we build it up in our mind and we think, okay, I'm going to post every single week, and I'm build this whole content calendar out, and it's just this huge robust plan, and it really never gets started. And so I think what you have to do is start, because something that is like half decent is still better than nothing. And so the challenge is, even if it's just once per month, like, then you're still achieving that level of like, my website's not static, we're producing stuff, we're out there, we're engaging, and it benefits in so many other ways. Like, content marketing is its own channel. It's a way to produce leads through SEO, but I always love about it is that it benefits every other channel. Like, if you're getting other traffic, if you're getting word of mouth, it's something else to say to people who could be a referral partner. It's something else to actually engage in a conversation. If you have even a small email list, you don't have to just come back to them over and over and say, hey, would you want to be a client? Like, you have something to share. And so that's why I think it's so important, just like, to get some momentum going. Don't spend like a year saying, well, I've got to completely overhaul my brand and website before I can create content, because then you're just wasting time and you never really get started.
I'll be a little facetious here, but you said this word, email list, or I guess two words. Isn't email dead? Hasn't everybody been predicting that email is going to die, email lists are going to go away, email marketing is going to go away? Like, what have you seen on your end from the utility or usefulness from not only having a blog, but collecting the email list?
Yeah, email's great. And Jetpack Workflow is a great example, just to be able to engage with people. And I think it's a fair thing to do. Like, I don't mind pulling a resource from a website, knowing I'm going to get emails from them. Whereas a lot of times we think that, but it's like, I know what decision I'm making. Like, people are smarter now. They're not just like, oh, I wonder if I'll get follow-up emails. Like we know that's going to happen, but sometimes we are okay with that. Like, if we're in that kind of exploring phase in the buying relationship, then we're going to say, okay, let's see what comes after this. Let's see what else they're going to talk about. And so I think people are okay with that if you're providing a valuable resource. But then, of course, you have to not abuse it, because we are all like getting too much email. And so I think being mindful of, if every single email you send has a purpose, so don't do it just to do it. It needs to have a purpose. But it can be really strong if you have a list. If you have even a small list, like, that's a direct access to someone who has at some level given you a level of trust, saying, okay, I'm willing to give you this email address. And so that's kind of a big step in today's world.
Yeah, well, I mean, to carry out the example, yeah, you're a big believer in email lists. I'm a big believer in email lists. If you let's say you shoot that YouTube video around filling out a bank loan application for your area, for your industry, put it up on YouTube. Maybe you transcribe it. You could put it up on your site as well. You pick up a couple of subscribers that watch that. And by the way, who's watching that other than your target market, right? If you're doing, for the construction industry, how to do bank loans, like who else is watching that other than people in that industry? And if you're picking up a couple even email subscribers and you're following your cadence of like one post a month, and it's all around, in this case, how to, optimize your finances, profitability, tax planning, whatever it may be for your construction company, whoever's on that list is just, the type of person you want to attract probably to your firm if that's your niche. And so when you do the bank loan video, you want to send that out to them. When you do the next video or thing, you want to send that out to them every month. And so I think that is a great way to stay top of mind, because the thing I hear a lot from accounting firm owners is either people forget us entirely or they forget all the different services we could do. And that's because you're not sending out these emails with the value add and reminding them that you're here and you can do these types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of good points you make in there. One is continuing to market to even your own clients, so they can know what else you can offer. But the other is just about video, because I think a lot of times we think of, and I come from like a journalism background, so I think of in terms of writing. And so when we think of content, we think sitting down at a screen and getting ready to type on this blank Word document. And it doesn't always have to be that way. If you have those FAQs in mind and you think of things that your clients have been asking about and you've been talking about internally, then just pull up a video and start talking about it. And that there's ways to get a lot of mileage out of that content, either by then having someone turn that into something written or just by putting it on YouTube. It may be a little bit rough, but it's still something. It still gives you some personality and puts your voice out there. And it's a simpler way to create content.
Awesome. Well, final question. It's 2022. What are some of the must-have content marketing tools? It might be contextual on the firm, but what are some things you feel like just belong in almost everybody's content marketing technology stack? What are 2 or 3 tools that might come to mind?
Oh, tools. That's fun. So we've been playing with one recently that we like a lot. It's called Surfer SEO. And it's really strong in doing a few things. One, it helps with the research and kind of segmenting out the keywords into, doing that comparison we talked about, like what's less competitive, what is, getting the most volume. But then with Surfer SEO, it actually uses AI to compare to what other top ranking sites are doing on this keyword, and then kind of scoring your article to tell you what to do to optimize it the best. So it's a cool tool for, if you already have an idea. I don't like to start with keywords. I like to start with, like we've talked about, what's the pain people are dealing with, what are they going through. But then once you have that, there's always an SEO keyword that's behind that. The other we like is Ahrefs. That's kind of the popular big name in the space, which we use for tracking and for keyword development. And then what is another tool I can think about? This is the main one. I mean, Google Docs doesn't really count, does it?
Well, it's so funny. I was on a panel on Tuesday and they said, "What are your top tools?" And I had to mention the G Suite because I just use it so often. Right. So I mean, I think that is absolutely fair game. Well, Micky, if somebody wants to reach out, say thank you, learn more about what you do, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to connect over email. You can email me, Micky, M-I-C-K-Y @FullStadium.co. Connect with me on LinkedIn. There will be links there in the show notes. And check out our website, FullStadium.co, and you can check out some of our content and our resources. So all that works.
I love it. If you couldn't write down everything today, we're going to recap everything in a 1,000+ word article. We're going to link it up. That's going to be at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. That's jetpackworkflow.com/blog. If you enjoyed this interview, please leave us a review. That is how we get the word out about the show. And if you really loved it, share it with a fellow firm owner that needed to hear this content. Maybe they're thinking about marketing or trying to get started with content, or they're running with content and they need some of the tools that you just mentioned for them to really sharpen their approach to content marketing. Micky, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks a lot, David. I enjoyed it.